So the front part of the pelvis kind of rotates forward, hinging at the hip, walking out just a little bit. Hey everyone, welcome to class. Today we're going to be focused on the hamstrings. So it's one of those areas that's constantly complained about, feeling chronically tight and just generally not like you have the range of motion that you wish you did. So this is just a great class to do when you feel like you've overdone it maybe on the strengthening side, or you've been sitting down too much and the hamstrings just feel very, very tight. I will never forget a trip I once took to New York. And we ended up sleeping on a friend's couch for like 4 nights. And the way it was actually me and my husband were sleeping on the same couch, not a pull-out couch, just a couch. And I was on one side and I slept with my knees into my chest like this all night. And I remember waking up the next morning and my hamstrings felt like they were made of cement. I essentially was contracting them all night long. And every time I think about having tight hamstrings, I think about how unpleasant that was. And a lot of this kind of tightness, that's extreme, I know, but a lot of our day-to-day tightness that we feel is really just because of patterns that we do repeatedly. And if we can change our habits a little bit to incorporate more varied movement, a lot of times that tightness just it goes away and we feel a lot more balanced and a lot more, just a lot more balanced in our body. I don't know what fancier word I was looking for than balanced, but I think that takes care of it. So today you will need a strap, and we're going to actually begin standing, but not to do anything crazy, just because I want you to feel the length in the hamstrings a little bit. So coming to standing, doesn't matter where you are on your mat, we're just going to begin with a simple hip hinge movement. So I want you to soften the knees just a touch, sit your hips back, and hinge forward at the hip crease. So what this does is it tilts the pelvis on the legs so that you actually feel a sense of length in the hamstrings. If you notice, if you do this the opposite way, like let's say you don't tilt the pelvis forward, let's say you keep the tailbone tucked under, now try to fold forward without hinging at the hips. You'll start to feel this in the lower back, but the hamstrings really feel absolutely nothing. Now let's go back to how we were just doing it. Soften the knees, hinge forward at the hip, keep your back nice and long, and start to walk the hands down the thighs. Keep pushing your butt back so your weight's in the heels. You're hinging at the hip, walking the hands forward. And you don't have to go very, very low in order to feel that length in the hamstrings, right? So just hold this for a couple breaths. I'm sorry I'm so sniffly. I think there's just something in the air. And slowly walk the hands back up. We're going to do that again, so that same pattern. Hinging at the hip, sitting the butt back. Your weight is mostly in the heels. And just walk the upper body down until you feel that natural resistance. It feels like your body wants to stop there. You're not going into a full forward fold. Slowly come up. Keep your core braced as you come back up. Now let's do that one more time. So hinging at the hips, butt pushes back. Weight is in the heels. You kind of feel the pelvis tilting forward. And slowly come back up. So now we're going to come back down to the mat. So now you feel what it feels like as you move the pelvis, how that impacts the hamstrings. And I want you to keep that in mind. I'll remind you as we go through class today. Step the right leg back and your left leg back, right foot forward. Shift your weight forward into the front foot. Just take a couple breaths here. Notice where you're feeling it. Obviously, you probably won't feel much in the hamstrings at this point. Sit your hips back, not all the way. We're not going to do a full runner's lunge, just kind of a halfway, 50% effort version of that. Lengthen the right leg and just start to hinge from the hip a little bit until you feel that resistance. It's not going to take much. But notice again, back up. If you scoop the pelvis under and you didn't tip it forward and you just walk the upper body down, you feel it in the spine, you feel it in the back, but the leg, without that movement of the pelvis, you're sort of taking the effort out of the hamstrings, which we don't want. You're taking that opportunity for release out of the hamstrings. And we want to keep it in there. So you're scooping the pelvis forward, kind of tipping it forward, Tailbone moves back, and then hinge at the hip. Now you'll feel it more. You can contract the quads a little bit for more stability. Come back up. You come back to your lunge where we were. Just sitting the hips down. Shift your hips back. Again, just 50%. Resist the temptation to take it any further than that. Focus on tipping the pelvis forward, feeling that resistance in the hamstrings, and then kind of leaning into it a little bit. Slowly come up. Let's do one more. Shift your weight back into the front leg. And then sit it back. 50%. Tip the pelvis forward. So the front part of the pelvis kind of rotates forward. Hinging at the hip. Walk it out just a little bit. And slowly take it back up. Bring your right foot back. Step your left foot forward. And we'll do the same thing. So just come into a nice kind of relaxed, low-ish lunge. And another little cue for you, try to keep your eyes on the imaginary horizon in front of you. Sometimes I find myself dropping my head down or looking in a totally different direction. Try to look straight ahead, just so the head and the neck stay pretty neutral. Now slide the hips back. Remember, 50% effort. So start to lengthen the left leg. Tip the pelvis forward. You might feel it a little more on this side. My left side tends to be, for most people, I think the left side is quite a bit tighter. Now, obviously, now you're not looking at the horizon, you're looking kind of at a natural, straightforward, based on the angle of your back. It'll vary. And slowly come back up. Let's lean our weight into the left foot again, dropping the hips down. And then shift your hips back. Very similar to that standing hip hinge motion that we did. Tipping the hips forward, keeping your back nice and long. You're just waiting for that resistance, and then you stop. On your next breath in, sit up. You can swing the left leg behind you, tuck the toes under, and sit up and back to downward facing dog. So this next part is probably one of my favorite things to release the hamstrings. Any kind of active stretch that has you moving is really great to incorporate. So I want you to take your left foot and step it to the outside of the left hand. Keep the back knee lifted, drop the hips low, and then step it back. So this obviously works the whole hip, but the hamstrings as well. Step the right foot forward to the outside of the right hand. Drop the hips nice and low. Sit it back. So you're kind of finding down dog between these poses. Step your left foot to the outside of the left hand. Drop the hips low, push through the right heel. Step it back. Try to control your movement. Down dog. Then right foot steps to the outside of the right hand. Sink it down. Step it back. We're going to do one more each way. Take your time. Left foot to the left hand. Step it back. Right foot to the outside of the right hand. Step it back. Downward facing. Take a pause here. Just visualize the heels dropping down towards the mat. Even if your knees are slightly bent, that's okay because you're looking for that tilt of the pelvis to bring the hamstrings into the equation. If your tailbone is tucked under, even in your down dog, you're not going to be getting as much length as you could. So soften the knees and then scoop the pelvis forward so that the front of the pelvis tilts towards the thigh bones, and then lift the hips up, drop the heels down. Take one more breath in. Exhale. Walk the feet together. Take the knees down, sit the hips back. You can find child's pose if you like, or you can just stay up on the heels. Take a couple breaths here. And we're gonna add on. So look to the front of your mat. Go ahead and come back to down dog. Inhale the right leg straight up. Exhale, step it forward for warrior two. Spin the left heel down. Open up the arms. Bend the right knee. My shirt is cozy, but it's all over the place. So sink into that front leg. Breathe. I want you to imagine pushing the floor away from you out through that right heel. So really push the mat away without straightening the leg. You're just sort of activating the whole right side a little bit more mindfully than we often do. Now straighten the leg. Bend it again. Really push the floor away. Straighten the leg. Bend. This time push the floor away, but imagine you're trying to pull the front part of your mat to the back part of your mat. Straighten out. And bend. One more time, do that same type of activation, like you're pulling the front part of your mat towards the back of your mat with the heel. Like you're trying to slide the parts together. Straighten the leg, and then tip the hips back, find triangle, reach the right arm out, stack the shoulders. Inhale fully. Exhale, soften the right knee, walk the right arm out to the side, kick the left heel up, open the left arm. Bend the right knee. Step the left foot back. You're going to find a wide forward fold. So turn the toes in towards the midline. Tilt the hips forward and fold straight down. You can bring the hands wherever it feels comfortable. On the mat, underneath the shoulders. You can interlace the hands behind the back. Either way, does not matter. However you're comfortable. Take 2 more breaths. Inhale, lift the chest. I want you just to walk over to the left, reaching for the outside of the left ankle. Kind of hug the chest down towards the left shin. Walk it over to the right. Reach the left hand to the outside of the right ankle, and fold it down. Turn everything back towards the front of your mat. Step the right foot behind you, find downward facing. Inhale, left leg lifts. Step forward, warrior two, spinning the right heel down. Open up the arms. Maybe look down that left arm. So just press the left heel down into the floor. And now you can know what it feels like. Imagine pulling with your heel, the front of the mat, back towards the back of your mat. Like you're trying to slide it in towards the midline. Relax and straighten the leg. Bend the left knee, come back down. Keeping the rest of the body pretty neutral. Try to slide the front of your mat towards the back of your mat. It'll go like you're grabbing it with the heel and pulling it towards the midline. Soften and straighten the leg. One more time, bend. Same thing, slide the front towards the back, figuratively. And straighten. So now come into triangle. Tilt the pelvis back, or tip back. Reach out for the left arm, take it down, stack the shoulders. Spin the chest around towards the sky. Breathe. Take 2 more breaths. Soften the left knee. Plant the hand. Inhale. Kick the right leg up. Keep spinning the chest open. Take 1 more inhale here. Keep your weight in the left heel. Exhale, take the right foot down. Spin it around. So you're going to take a wide forward fold. I'm just turning towards you, but you can stay where you are. Hinge at the hip. Let the upper body fold down. Hands can end up wherever it's comfortable. Lift the chest just a little bit. Walk it over to the outside of the left ankle and fold. Gonna walk to the center, come over to the right, and fold. Come back to the center. I want you to turn everything to the front of your mat. Step both feet back. Take a seat on the heels. You can turn towards me. Relax the shoulders down and back. On your next breath in, sweep the arms up overhead and pressing the hands together, exhale them right down to the heart center, sealing in your practice. Let the eyes blink open. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep in mind that in order to maintain flexibility and mobility that you cultivate in a class like this, you have to back it up with the habits that you have in the rest of your day. So if you do tend to sit down a lot, or you do one sport, like regularly through the week, whether you're cycling or running, something that tends to tighten up the hamstrings quite a bit, take little breaks throughout the day, throughout the week, even if it's just doing a few of these moves, before you get into bed or when you wake up in the morning or on your lunch break. It doesn't have to be a super committed class, but take the time to work in different kinds of movement so that when you're doing the thing that tightens the hamstrings, you're also countering it with something that brings some length back into them. So just friendly PSA, keep that in mind. If you like this class and you want the full version or any other full-length class, drop down to the description below for the link to my digital studio. You'll get a free 2-week trial. There's hundreds of classes, varying in length, style, difficulty, really something for every single mood, including lots of series as well. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about it. Go check it out. I hope to see you there. And anyway, I'll see you right back here for the next class. Have a good one.